Welcome back, everyone, to the Added Time Football Podcast. Today we are doing episode 5, and we have a lot on the table.
And we have a special guest.
Who's the special guest? Okay, who's
Say hi, Timo.
that's the special guest. Well, without further ado, let's jump right into what we have.
Okay. Great intro.
I can't. We have a special guest. I'm expecting like another person to just pop out of nowhere. Just see.
Who's our special guest?
Okay, I'm ready. You ready? Let's go. Zoosh! Welcome back, everybody, to the... Welcome back, everyone, to the Added Time Football Podcast. Today we are doing episode 5. We have a lot of news on the table because the football news is just a buzzing. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. Starting off with Champions League football. We have a winner in Bayern Munich. What makes it very special to at least us is my co-host here called the final. If you guys remember, when we first started our podcast and we said what the final would look like, we called it.
Yes, I believe in our first podcast, we had our Champions League predictions of who would be in the final, and I predicted Paris and Bayern, and look at me now.
You predicted the winner.
I did, yeah. But even as time went on, before the final, I wanted Paris to win, just because I like the underdog. But yeah, I did predict the final, so I'm proud of that. And you predicted Bayern as a winner too, right?
I did.
Yeah.
And the reason why I backed them to win is I wanted $5 million from Barcelona in Liverpool's funds. And we got it. And to see that tiny magician smile as Barcelona crumble brings me the utmost enjoyment and pleasure.
Yeah.
Congrats, Coutinho. Congrats, Bayern.
Obviously, me and you both tuned in to watch. We watched it together. It was a good game of football, but I think both of us can admit that we wanted more goals. Good header from Kingsley Coman. Brilliant performance from Thiago. And yeah, it was a good final, but I definitely wish there was more goals. Neymar and Mbappe didn't exactly show up. They both had their issues, their struggles. Even Lewandowski had that one chance, hit the post. I don't remember seeing him very much after that. But he's easily been the player of the competition, best striker in the world. Probably would have won the Ballon d'Or. Easily would have won the Ballon d'Or. Yeah, you got anything else to say about Champions League?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that was the most equally matched Champions League final, but it was definitely a very entertaining final. I won't lie, towards the beginning of the game, I got a few moments for PSG because PSG would go on a beautiful attack and they'd miss just for Bayern to quickly counter, and then they'd miss on the. It was just, you could not take your eyes off of that game for a certain amount of time. Mbappe had many runs, but couldn't finish. Neymar had a chance where he just almost beat Neuer, but Neuer proves yet again why he's still up there and why he might be one of the greatest goalkeepers today and maybe in the future.
I think he's the greatest keeper of this generation. I think he's better than Casillas. I think he's just been dominant for longer. He was dominant for a longer age. So, yeah. All right. You got anything else to say about Champions League?
Man, the performance from both teams were pretty good, unfortunately. Well, I say unfortunately because it did look like PSG were fighting hard. They lost. They couldn't convert a goal. Neymar didn't look so hot. Mbappe didn't look so hot. But I do guarantee they'll be back next year. This is the furthest they've ever came in the Champions League. And I know that many people had already counted them out, even including me. I will not lie. But after what I've seen, I think they have what it takes to be true contenders for the upcoming years.
Yeah. I think, PSG, they've got a young team, and they're just going to continue to build. Obviously, they have to replace the outgoing this guy. But, they have an exciting young team. They need to look in some positions to improve. I think they could do better in the midfield a little bit. I think their attack is obviously already loaded. They could do better in defense as well. Keylor Navas is a great keeper, but he is getting up there in age. So I think, they probably should invest in a younger keeper at some point. I think, and Bayern, obviously, they're just going to be dominant for a long time with the signings of Sané, who we've talked about a little bit. They're an exciting team, especially. Obviously, the striker situation could be in question once, Lewandowski's getting up there in age, but age isn't affecting him so far. And they do have Xerxes coming up. But players like Alphonso Davies, who's, one of the best left backs in the world, certainly the best young left back in the world, they do have some other positions that are aging, but they also have young players coming up in those positions. So, they are an exciting team as well. But I think, there's nothing else for us to say about Champions League. So we'll just have a couple short comments about Europa. Not a lot to talk about. We weren't following that competition a whole lot because both of our teams weren't in it or anything. But a final of Sevilla versus Inter, Lopetegui versus Antonio Conte. Very exciting final. There were a lot of goals, a lot of personalities. If you have anything to say, what do you guys say about, couple comments only about Europa League final?
You know how I feel about Sevilla 2016. I remember being in school watching that final. Sturridge scored, and I was like, "Oh, we've got this in the bag."
Okay.
And then we got Koke, new right back man who destroys us.
He scored twice.
I think he had a hat trick that game actually, or two goals and an assist. But and the worst part about that I believe that was his last game at Sevilla. But
where is he at now?
I remember he went to Schalke, but I think now he's retired.
I'm thinking of a different Koke. But
I think Koke would be retired now. He's probably 37, 38.
But
Sevilla, they are no joke when it comes to competing in Europa. I believe that they are second or first in the most won Europa League titles. I believe so. And I think they're the only team to win two back to back. So I was really rooting for Inter to win that. Also, I wanted Inter to win because they, like you said, they are, or not like you said, but as we were talking about before, a team with youngsters, a team with a future. I see Inter as a team with a bright future. Especially, it's funny how they got all these like Premier League rejects and fringes, and yet they're
real quick. Koke does play for Levante. That's what I was thinking.
Levante.
Yeah,
okay.
He still plays. Yeah.
Dang.
I was thinking of that one. But continue with what you're saying.
Old fart. But
he's 33. Not too bad. I mean, you can be. Look at Real Betis guy, 39 years old, Joaquin. Yeah. But continue.
Don't compare Joaquin to Koke. But
I'm
anyway.
just saying, age isn't a big factor in La Liga.
But I was saying, Inter have gotten all these Premier League fringes, Victor Moses, Alexis Sanchez, Romelu Lukaku, and they've turned them into crucial players into their lineup. So even Ashley Young, I can't believe I left him out. I remember when that transfer happened, I was like, what the hell are they thinking? And now it's paying off extremely well. But like you said, the game was filled with a bunch of goals. It was a very entertaining final, especially with Diego Carlos ending it with a semi-acrobatic bicycle.
That was a good bicycle, but if it weren't for Lukaku, yeah.
But it's good for Sevilla. Sevilla, I don't know much about their season. Don't know if they struggled compared to their expectations.
They had a good season.
Yeah. So I say
Can't expect Sevilla to place above Atletico, Barca, and Madrid. It's just not realistic. But yeah, what did you say?
Inter should look to win Champions League, or not win Champions League, but compete in Champions League instead of getting knocked out in the group stages.
They did. They were in the group of death, though.
That's true. That's true.
But yeah,
Barcelona, Dortmund, and Slavia
Red
Prague.
Star. They're Slavia
Red
Prague.
Star.
Yeah.
Was it Red Star or Slavia Prague?
I think it was Slavia Prague. Yeah. Yeah. I tuned in the second half of the game. It was pretty exciting. I was kind of rooting for Inter because I do like Antonio Conte a lot. I liked him a lot at Chelsea. Kind of left in a bad way, but everything that he brought, the passion he had at our club, I'm always rooting for him. Glad he's staying at Inter Milan for another season. I think he's the right man for the job. He's a personality for sure, and we saw that when he got into a fight with Benega, who's Qatar bound, I'm pretty sure. I think he's going to Qatar. But yeah, it was an exciting final. It was kind of sad to see Conte, at the end, but he did handle it like a professional, as you would expect. And it was nice to see, Jesus Navas lift to the Europa. You can see how much it meant to him. And Sevilla truly are the best Europa team of all time, probably. They have won so many. They won back-to-back not too long ago. I think the year that they beat you guys was their second in a row, I think. Yeah. Sevilla's the real deal when it comes to competing in the Europa League. You can never count them out, and they proved that this season, beating, even though they were the underdogs. They beat Manchester United, right? They in the semis. It was United, and then Inter Milan in the final. It was big, exciting for Sevilla, especially if they can retain Regulion, who I think they should now that Chelsea have our guy. I don't know my sides, Ben Chilwell, but yeah. Is that all you gotta say on Europa?
That's pretty much all I gotta say on Europa.
All right. Well, I can't think if there's anything else we should get into before we get into the biggest news in football. Obviously, we'll talk about these guys later. But unless you can think of something, I think it's time to get into
Into what? You lagged.
Is it time? When did I lag?
You lagged as soon as I think you were about to say Messi.
Yes, Messi. I think it's time to get into Lionel Messi. And
you're a football fan, and you don't know what's going on with Messi.
Not a fan.
You are not a fan. You are not a fan.
Even if you aren't a football fan, I think you should know it's one of the most intriguing stories in sports right now. Actually, there's a lot happening in sports right now. So, yeah. Anyways, I think we should get into Messi. I think I'll let you go first because, you're a Messi diehard. You have a bunch of you have Messi kids from like 4 different seasons. You had Messi posters plastered up in your room. You're a Messi fan, but you don't support Barca as a club. You love Messi, and that's respectable.
Yes, sir. I remember growing up, having my dad as my coach. Usually you have a coach who analyzes players and he'll tell you how to play. But when your dad is the coach, you sit down with him and you analyze with him. So one guy my dad always used to watch and always wanted me to be like was Messi. The way he dribbles so effortlessly through midfield, his vision, the way he creates for his teammates. He's just an all-around offensive player. And everyone aspires to be him. And the same with Ronaldo. Everyone aspires to be Ronaldo. He wanted a role model for me, because there are plenty of good footballers out there, but what those two do are on a completely different level. So when I first saw him as a young kid,
as they are for as long as they've been.
When I first saw him as a young kid, I instantly fell in love with his play style. I instantly fell in love with because I'm a team guy first. I do what I can for the team. I do what's best for the team. I like getting my teammates involved. So Messi was a clear admiration for me. So I'm not a Barcelona fan. I grew up in a Chelsea fan household, and when I got the mind of my own, I became a Liverpool fan. But
before Klopp, you should say that.
Before Klopp. I was there before Klopp and Brendan Rodgers. I was there the season before Brendan Rodgers arrived.
Yeah.
But yeah, Messi is just a player that you cannot afford to leave your team. He benefits everyone, even staff. It's just having his presence is something that you want. Every person wants on their team, and
I feel
with
like
Barcelona, you
I
feel
don't
like
know. Real quick, I feel like we should go into like depth of our club history of like who we support, but not now. I think this is too important of a topic to go into that now. But yeah, continue.
yeah, Messi leaving Barcelona. I never thought I'd see the day. Like Messi is just he just seems like that type of player who would retire at Barcelona. Like obviously we've had those here and there rumors. Like when he had tax fraud, he was linked to Manchester City. The loss to Liverpool, he was linked to Manchester. Like, and it's just funny how every
He's linked
time
with
there's a
Chelsea at one
rumor, yeah, every time there's a rumor
point.
that's linked up with him leaving Barcelona, it always circulates around either England or the MLS, and Manchester City always is a name that comes up. Um,
Mhm.
and at least now I could see it happening because of Pep Guardiola. We all know how Messi feels about Pep Guardiola. We know how Pep Guardiola feels about Messi. Obviously, Messi won his a Champions League under him, and I believe he also won one under Luis Enrique,
Yeah,
which is why he has a lot of positive thoughts and positive sayings about Luis Enrique as well. But obviously, Luis Enrique is the coach of the Spanish national team right now. So that leaves Pep Guardiola as the only manager he's won UEFA Champions League under. Um, like I said, they've got nothing but positive things to say off each other. They seem to they the communications they're having are only feeding more to the rumor. Um, I think there's a certain part of me that thinks that letting Messi go is the right thing, but also letting Messi go is the wrong thing, because Messi
yeah,
wants to go obviously because he knows that there is not a bright future at Barcelona. Something is not right. He believes he still has a lot to offer as a player, and Barcelona is not the club. Um, with Manchester City, as a heavy link, I believe that that's the club that he could go to, especially knowing Pep's tactics. He knows what Pep expects. They already have good history with each other. But at the same time, I think that this is good because it gives Barcelona a time. As we know, they're a very overaged team. They're a very old team. This gives them an opportunity to rebuild with youth. This gives them an opportunity to get a little younger. Um, we saw a report today. I sent it to you. We talked about it a little bit. How they're offering. We don't know if this is like a true offer, but
it does come from Spanish media,
yeah, it
so
piqued
take it
our
with a grain of
interest.
salt.
It piqued our interest a little bit. It was Messi going to Manchester City, and Manchester City giving Bernardo Silva, Gabriel Jesus, Eric Garcia, who's the center back of their La Magia Youth Academy, who has been heavily linked with the move back, and one more player, I believe. And then alongside 100 million euros. Um, I don't know how much truth there
Gabriel
is
Jesus,
behind that
Bernardo Silva.
offer, but I see it as it is a good offer. It would benefit both teams. Obviously, Manchester City getting one of the greatest players, or if not the greatest player to ever play, and Barcelona getting a chance to rebuild, especially with Ronald Koeman coming in. Suarez is looking like he's about to leave. A lot of old players are looking about to leave because it looks like Koeman wants to start from not necessarily scratch, but I don't know what you would call scratch for a team of the stature of Barcelona, but he wants to start fresh, is what I will say. Um, so yeah, Barcelona. As I've said countless times, I'm sorry, I'm trying to think off the top of the brain. They are a very old team, and I think it's a good opportunity for them to get younger. And it's not like they're getting anything non-valuable to their roster. Bernardo Silva is fully capable of starting for Barcelona. He's a very well all-around player. He can play the midfield. He can play winger. Juan Jesus may not be Messi finishing, Suarez finishing but he is a talented striker. You got Eric Garcia, who's upcoming in the center back. You got PK, who's 34. So it'd be a good replacement. Um, and yeah, obviously the 100 million euros would be beneficial to Barcelona because they are currently trying to balance out those books because they are in debt after spending near 1 billion on a bunch of flops. Well, let me not say a bunch of flops, but most of those players that they've spent their money on aren't playing today. They're either on loan or they're sold or playing in a different, or they're, yeah, pretty much they're just playing in a different league or not even on the roster. But
or just injury prone or just bad.
yeah, it's Barcelona is in it's a testing stage. The fans are angry. Messi is angry. This is Bartomeu's time to shine, to show what he can do. Because obviously Messi doesn't
Which
have
is
trust in him.
resign. I think that's the only.
Yes, I think that's what I was going to. I think Bartomeu just needs to resign because Messi has counted on him time and time again, and he cannot deliver. It's making Messi upset. The fans have been depending on him time and time again. They cannot deliver. He seems to be making all the wrong moves. Ever since Neymar left, he just seems to be making wrong moves that don't benefit the team or don't benefit the club and don't benefit the fan base. And so I think at this point, the best thing to do for the fans to show them that you respect them, the best thing to do for Messi to show that you respect him is resign. Because I truly believe that there's that part of Messi who doesn't want to leave Barcelona because Barcelona is the team that made Messi who he is today. Well, let me not when I say made, I mean like we all know Messi as a Barca player. We've never seen him on any other team. He's been loyal for many years now, and with loyalty comes respect. I don't believe that he would just throw them under the bus because they're struggling to get trophies. I believe that if he sees the right plan in place, he will for sure stay at the club. But under Bartomeu, I believe he knows, and I believe we know as spectators that Bartomeu is not the man to take this team forward. And the people he hires as coaches are most of the time wrong. Messi had a few options that he wanted. I heard that he wanted Pochettino. I heard that he wanted Luis Enrique back. He had a good list of coaches that the club would be comfortable with, that the players would be comfortable with, high morale. Instead, Bartomeu destroys the morale by getting Quique Setien. But obviously, as a player, you're not going to strike playing. They said, okay, yeah, we're going to play under him. And Quique came in a few months. It looked like they were doing good. Their results proved like they were doing good. But on the inside, there was drama going on that we didn't know about. Setien was having sessions. He was really bad for the players to the point where some players didn't even show up to the sessions that he was holding or the meetings that he was showing because people just didn't take Setien seriously. Everybody liked Valverde. Unfortunately, they lost to Barcelona, and the year before they lost to Roma, but they still believed he was the man for the job.
The Liverpool.
Yeah.
You said Barcelona.
Oh, so sorry. I'm getting he lost to thank you. He lost to Liverpool and Roma in his first season. And I believe that Barca was too quick to fire him, even though he was finding success. And that also hit the morale of the Barcelona squad as they didn't want to see him go. I don't know. It's just part of me was making all the wrong decisions. And like I said before, pretty much just resigning is his only option as to showing that the club that he has the most respect for them, and he wants what's best for the team because it's not what's best for the team.
Yeah, this is a very interesting time for football and for Messi and for Barcelona. I think I'm pretty sure I've heard that they had that meeting with excuse me, with Ronald Koeman, and Ronald Koeman told Messi basically your privileges are over. And I think that might have, jump-started him to just have the idea of leaving the club. I think there's always been that part of Messi that wants to test other waters, that wants to go somewhere else and maybe try another league, but he's never had the opportunity or never felt a strong enough urge to go. But I think with Barcelona's performance last season, placing second in the league and just going through two coaches, or having two coaches, going through two coaches because they fired both their coaches. But losing 8-2 to Bayern in the Champions League quarterfinal, it's one of the worst periods in Barcelona history, probably recent Barcelona history right now. Because Bartomeu, he might not have, or not Bartomeu, excuse me, Valverde, he might not have had the most Champions League success, but you could rely on him in the league, and he was gonna, Barcelona were always contenders to win the league. Real Madrid, got the job done. And it's not even a strong Real Madrid side, They were the best team in La Liga. La Liga kind of did have just a lackluster season. Teams that we're used to seeing do good, at least. We saw Betis take a big step back, Valencia take a big step back. Some teams take steps forward, like, we talked about Sevilla with Lopetegui, but I don't know. It's weird, It's going to be so strange if Messi does leave. I'm not sure if at this stage, if it is good for the club to keep Messi around for any longer, even if Bartomeu does resign. I still don't know if it is. I still don't know if it's good for the club for Messi to stay around, just because he's caused a lot of drama now, admittedly. But yeah, Messi is the greatest player of all time. He's, I think, still the best player in the world. You saw the season he had last season was unbelievable. How many goals and assists he had in the league. I'm pretty sure he's setting a La Liga record for assists. It shows he's still an unbelievable player, and it'll be so strange to see him in another kit. I do see Manchester City getting him. I don't really see anybody else having the funds to pull it off. I know Inter are rumored, and Chelsea's rumored. I think that's only because Chelsea have been spending so much money in the transfer market. They just think, oh yeah, they'll go after Messi too. But I don't think that's the case. I think the only case that somebody will get Messi is if Barcelona can decide to settle on an offer like the offer you were talking about, 100 million and some very solid players. I think it's worth it. 100 million can get you a lot in this current market, at least if you're going to spend it this summer. It can get you, two world-class players potentially that can really kickstart your team. And all the other players, Eric Garcia, who we know wants to go back to Barcelona. Gabriel Jesus, who's a good striker. He has good ability. And then Bernardo Silva, who also is just an unbelievable player. He's very versatile. He can play in the midfield. He can play up front, or he can play forward. He's played the false nine before for City. He's a very talented player. But if even that offer is true, I just think the only case that Messi does leave is if, they do decide to settle, or if somehow that court case, they end up going into that court case and Messi is allowed to leave on a free. I know that there was the details on how that expired in June because he's going into his last season, but that also would be unfair if it expired in June, because June was the start of, the restart. That's when clubs just started to get back into football. And in his contract, it says he could leave after the season is over, and technically the season's done. So it will be interesting to see where that goes. And I think if he does leave, if he's allowed to leave, I think the only team that really can pay him like those $1 million week wages is probably Manchester City. It's, as I said, it's going to be so strange. And I don't want to see Messi playing for a Premier League rival, but I just don't see him going anywhere else. Unless it's like Qatar, but that's not happening. You got anything else to say about that? It's very strange to be talking about Messi potentially leaving Barcelona.
Yeah, it's one thing that I can add though is Barcelona fans, they have been very supportive of this decision. Nobody is sending hate towards Messi, as it should be. Instead, they're backing him. And I feel like I talked to you about this. I feel like this was a part of leaking this information. I feel like it was just to apply the pressure on Bartomeu, because it's not just Messi that doesn't like Bartomeu. Fans have expressed their disinterest in him. Players have expressed their disinterest in them. It's just, I don't know how you can still keep your job or like still function in a job when everybody wants you out for years, not even just recently, just for years that people wanted you out, and you continue to stay. At least if you're going to stay in your job, at least do your job correctly or do something that will help the fan. Honestly, I think the last straw was trading Arthur for Pjanic, because they're a team that's trying to get younger and they're trying to balance the books, and they didn't really balance much and gave away youth. So it doesn't really it doesn't really match what they're trying to aim for. And I think that's when, like, if you look at if you go to social media, if you go to podcasts, if you go to just media in general, and you see the genuine reaction of Barcelona fans once that trade was out. Unfortunately for Pjanic, Barca fans are not happy with his arrival. He is a good player, but why would you give away a 23,
He
24-year-old
regressed
player
a
for a
lot.
30-year-old?
He regressed a lot for Juve last season, and we talked about this a lot. We both were very passionate about it. It was to bounce the books. They are pretty behind, but it just isn't a good move at all. But yeah, continue. It's weird.
No, that's pretty much it. My ending thought is just, if this is Messi's plan to apply pressure on Bartomeu and to get him to resign, I think it's a good plan. I think it's very logical. And the fans are backing him, which I think is applying even more pressure to Bartomeu. So it couldn't go any more right, because all this protesting, all the rallying, is not for Messi or it's not to send hate to Messi. It's to send Bartomeu a message that, look at what your plans, look at what your future you promised is doing to our captain, our leader, our best player. It's making him want to leave. Resign, pretty much.
Bartomeu is the president equivalent of Mino Raiola, and nobody likes him. And and it's yeah. I remember he said this line right after the Champions League loss. He said something along the lines of, "It'd be irresponsible for me to resign at this moment," when he was asked about it. And yeah, I think that luckily he has one more year as Barcelona president if he doesn't resign, and I don't think he will resign. I think that he doesn't see himself as a problem whatsoever. That's just his mindset, and if he doesn't see himself as a problem, then I don't know why he would resign. He probably still thinks that there's a chance that he can win the elections next year and be president for another 4 or 5 years, however long it is. So yeah, I don't see it happening. And even if he does happen to resign, I think if you're Coman, with that talk that he had with him, I think there's not much repairing you can do with Messi at this point. I think that if he said he wants to go, then you get rid of him if he doesn't end up leaving on a free. Obviously, he sent in that fax to Barcelona's office to request a transfer to try to activate his free transfer clause or whatever it is. But yeah, it's a strange time right now in football. But I think, is that all we got for Messi in Barcelona?
That's pretty much all I have to say
Yeah.
on Barcelona.
Well, we can move into the most exciting thing in football right now, and it's Chelsea Football Club absolutely destroying football, going out and getting all the top talents in Europe. Not really, but Chelsea Football Club are making moves currently in the transfer market. We have officially announced at this very moment, 2 players have been announced, Ben Chilwell, and obviously Malang Sarr, the young French center half from Nice that we got on a free transfer, which, as Marina said, couldn't pass up on it. It was a brilliant move. Yet another example of brilliant business. I believe tomorrow, Thiago Silva will be announced. He completed his medical in Milan today, and he has signed his Chelsea contract. Reportedly, I do believe it's, and he will be announced within the next hours, probably. Kai Havertz waiting on. I think that Leverkusen went further along in finding the replacement for Havertz, which is Patrick Schick, who we saw on loan from Roma at Leipzig last season. And trying to him. It's just, I haven't been more excited my entire life currently at this moment. It's an extremely exciting time to be a Chelsea fan. All these young, talented players coming into the club, and then obviously a world-class center back like Thiago Silva, who admittedly is turning 36 next month, I believe. it's still, he's still world-class center back. We saw that in the Champions League final. Oh, it's so great to see. Obviously, Ben Chilwell signed for, it's still not known exactly what it was, but we know it was in the range of 45 to 50 million pounds, which is extremely good business once again, because as you know, a few months ago, Leicester reportedly wanted 80 million for him, and we have brought that down to almost half of that. And we know that the I can't think of the word. We know that the price raises on when you're buying players from other Premier League clubs, and I think that that's extremely good business. Saying that, last year, someone who's 4 years older than Ben Chilwell was signed for 80 million, and from the same club. So it's extremely good business. Before I get into it more and get carried away, I want to hear what you have to say about this season's transfer revelation, maybe the best Premier League transfer window of all time, outside of when I believe Roman Abramovich became our owner, and we just went ballistic in the market that season as well, with getting Mourinho on board, buying all these players. But yeah, I want to hear what you have to say.
Well, I'm going to keep it very simple, very short. Well, let me not say very short, but I am going to keep it very simple. I think this is just a sign of what Chelsea's goal is. Chelsea's goal isn't to place in a Champions League spot. They're aiming to win the title. This is a squad that is planning to win the title. Look at the people on the screen. You have Hakim Ziyech, Ben Chilwell, Kai Havertz, Thiago Silva, Timo Werner, Malang Sarr, but who is going on loan, but when he comes back will be more like he'll be a more improved center back, who I believe is just a left-footed Kurt Zouma. Honestly, there's a great.
It gives me Marcel Desailly vibes, and that sounds like I'm hyping it up. But Marcel Desailly, French legend, Chelsea legend, Malang Sarr, French player, Chelsea player, same position.
Honestly, I still, as I said, I grew up in a Chelsea fan household. There's still that part of me that has love for Chelsea. It's very hard sometimes to, when they play, to not like compliment or to not go, oh, Chelsea should have scored that. Even though I should be supporting Liverpool, I still find myself supporting Chelsea. That's just the house I grew up in. But once you fall in love with the club, you are in love with that club. You cannot go anywhere else. Chelsea was my first love. I grew up loving Chelsea. To this day, I still support Chelsea.
Plastic.
Plastic. I guess you could call me a plastic, but
no, the choice you made at the time was a pretty respectable choice, because Liverpool were in the depths at that point. And that was before Brendan Rodgers. That was like in a transition period for Liverpool. But yeah,
for me, Frank Lampard, Drogba. I grew up wanting. That's another player that I would analyze with my father. Didier Drogba, man. Eden Hazard. They were a force, but I always wanted to be like Drogba as well when he's clinical finishing. But then my love for Liverpool came when I saw Steven Gerrard, the all-around midfielder, just like Lampard. And I got to know the squad a little more. Obviously, a few years down the line, we almost win it, but my hero, Steven Gerrard, slips. But it's okay because
Demba.
That was one of those games that was like a ooh, but a yay moment for me. But yeah, it's exciting seeing this Chelsea roster. It's very exciting seeing them. I would not put it past them to get second. Obviously, on pen and paper, we're still gonna say, "Oh, Manchester City's on top," or "Liverpool's on top." But quite honestly, I can't wait for the season because you never know, man. Chelsea might actually win the Premier League this season, and I fully back that. You can come back to me saying, "Oh, you said they were gonna win it." You can come back. I believe it in the next 3 years, maybe even next season. I believe that they can win it because this is a new era, and it's a very exciting era. And for Frank Lampard to be the one to start this era it truly couldn't be a better story.
It's literally it's a fairy tale. Everything that's happening for Chelsea right now, it's. But yeah, continue with what you're saying. I got a lot to say when you're finished. So
As a fan of him, as a player, and as a manager, I end with I am very excited to see what comes and his rivalries as his Chelsea career comes through as
yeah,
a manager.
well, because you went into your history of your love, I think I should go into mine. And everything I owe is to you. um, when we were both in elementary school, we went to elementary school together. Chardell at the time was still a big time Didier Drogba fan. He would wear a Didier Drogba kit to school all the time, and we would go out and play soccer on the fields every day. My family isn't big on soccer. They, I've never played it. I've never played for a team or anything, and so I never was introduced to it. Chardell was my introduction to football. Um, and in elementary school, I downloaded the FIFA 14 demo, and I started to play that, and I played as Barcelona, and I thought, wow, this sport is really, really cool. And so eventually I got FIFA 15. Chardell gave me FIFA 15, actually, and I fell in love with Chelsea from that moment. I remember I made my ultimate team entirely Chelsea. I did all these Chelsea career modes, 5 years ago only. But I had known football before Chelsea. Chelsea was truly my first love, and they will be my only love. Um, but yeah, Chardell introduced me to all of this. We had a friend named Kobe as well, who also happened to be a Chelsea fan, and we would go out and play soccer on the fields. I would wear this exact kit, this Eden Hazard kit. Kobe would wear an Oscar kit, and Chardell would wear his Didier Drogba kit, the true trio of dreams. And it was a lot of fun. And yeah, I owe everything to them pretty much. But Chelsea, being a fan for these past few years, I've gotten to see a lot of interesting times. Obviously, I was a fan I started to become a fan during Mourinho's second period with the club. When he was sacked for Gus Hiddink, we placed 8th in the league that season. I believe it was 8th. Confident it was 8th. So we missed out on even Europa League. We weren't in Champions League. Gus Hiddink had to take over that season, and then the season after Mourinho was sacked, we hired the guy I was just talking about, one of my favorite coaches that I've witnessed, probably my second favorite coach, just seeing his passion, Antonio Conte. I got to watch his era with that brilliant back three, Azpilicueta, John Terry, David Luiz. We got to see some really exciting times under Conte. And seeing us win, the league title. Obviously, Champions League has evaded us for a long time, but we won the league title with Conte, and it meant the world to us fans. It meant the world to Conte. Obviously, he was such a passionate coach. And that second season, although we did win the FA Cup and we did well in the league, we did end up sacking Conte because teams just seemed to adapt. Or we didn't do too well in the league, but that was the main reason. But teams just seemed to adapt to our style of play, and Conte wasn't willing to change up too much after his back three system. His wing backs, Victor Moses and Alonso, who were excellent. Kind of, everybody knew what we did, and so it was a lackluster season. And then we went into the Sarri era. That was a painful era for some. For me, I don't have too harsh things to say about Sarri. We won Europa League with him. We placed third in the league. I think that he was there. He did his job. Obviously, with the start of the season, how good of a start of the season we had, you would have expected us to challenge for the title. So that is a little disappointing. But all in all, I'm not a big Sarri hater. I'll say that. And obviously, he was sacked. He went to Juve. He's been sacked from Juve, but if you remember last summer, I was so on the Lampard train. Even before it was rumored, I was saying Frank Lampard needs to be our next head coach. there's nobody else. Frank Lampard needs to be our next head coach. Even before any rumors, I knew, there was nobody else. It had to be Frank Lampard. And when I saw that Frank Lampard was confirmed, I was so excited. Obviously, we had our transfer ban. I was very frustrated at the time because I wanted Frank Lampard to build on his current squad. I wanted him to make the transfers he can make. But as it turns out, that was a blessing in disguise. It allowed for youth players to come up through the academy. We got to see something that we haven't seen before. Mason Mount, Tammy Abraham, Reece James, Tamori, all these young guys coming up through the academy and having excellent seasons. Mason Mount obviously probably being the standout of the bunch. Reece James also having a great season. Tammy Abraham, great start of the season, kind of fell off as Olivier Giroud started to, become very good. And Tammy did fall off form. Tomori didn't appear too much second half of the season, but he did have some excellent moments against Ajax in the Champions League. I remember he had a brilliant performance against Liverpool early on in the league when we lost 2-1. Frank Lampard, fourth place, probably should have been higher. We did struggle in some matches, but he's a young coach. We're going to have that. Frank Lampard, unlike our past two coaches, isn't afraid to change things up. We've seen multiple formations. We've seen 4-3-3s. We've seen 4-2-3-1s. We've seen 3-4-3s. It's, it's all different, but it's so exciting with this current Chelsea revolution led by the best player in our club's history, our leading goal scorer, the man who captained us in our Champions League final, because John Terry obviously had his red card, or he was suspended for getting a yellow card in the Napoli match, which was his second. It's just so exciting to be led in this generation, to be making the transfers that we make. Timo Werner, Thiago Silva, Kai Havertz, Ben Hakim Ziyech. We have Malang Sarr, who's a young center back, left-footed center back, mind you, something that we don't have at the club senior-wise other than Jake Clark-Salter. I believe he's the only other guy. So it was a good buy. I heard some rumors he could potentially be going on loan to Leipzig, which I do like as long as he gets more game time than Ampadu, and I think he should because he has a lot more first-team experience than Ampadu has. And if I'm not mistaken, the only left-footed player that can play their left center-back role is Klosterman. I believe that's the only guy, but I could be mistaken. And Klosterman's a left back, and he can play that left wing back spot that Angelino occupies if Angelino leaves. If Angelino doesn't come back to Leipzig. But Kai Havertz, it's our record transfer. We're spending 90 million pounds, 100 million euros, 80 million euros straight up, 20 million in add-ons. It's the most expensive transfer in our club's history, breaking the Kepa transfer, which we don't need to talk about, which actually I think we should talk about after we get done with this. We know how good he is. He's 21 years old, left-footed. He can play on the right. He can play at striker. He can play as a false 9. He can play the number 8. He can play the number 10. He's extremely versatile, and he's good with his right. He's great with his right foot. The way he glides around the pitch, it's so exciting. I can't wait to see him in our midfield. I think that he will be in the midfield with Mason Mount after the season Mason Mount has. You can't take him out. He's our best system player, and I think our number 6s will. I think obviously Kovacic will rotate in as an 8 and obviously Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Don't forget about him. Will also rotate in as a left-sided 8. But also Kovacic and Kante can play the 6. Jorginho, depending on what happens, can play the 6. Billy Gilmore can play the 6. It's all very exciting. And then we talk about some other transfers. Ben Chilwell, our biggest position of need throughout the entire season was the left back position. Marcos Alonso, great going forward. Can't track back to save his life. It's just, we know that he's left wing back. He's not too quick, but he's great going forward. Scored a couple of goals for us this season. Actually, he scored that one goal against Newcastle, and we won that game 1-0. I can't think of any other goals at the moment. And then Emerson, who had a good start of the season and ever since has completely fallen off a cliff in form. Haven't seen him feature too much. He is going to be leaving the club this offseason. And that's, with Ben Chilwell coming in, he's a young left back. Obviously, he's Frank Lampard's number one option. That's the biggest thing. He's an exciting player, and regardless of what anybody says, they can't deny that. He's extremely talented. He has Premier League experience. He has international experience. He is what Frank Lampard wants, which is most important. And he's a talent. He's a brilliant player. And yeah, as we said, 45, 50 million isn't a bad fee for him, I don't think, just based off of the rest of the market. Then, obviously, Hakim Ziyech and Timo Werner, we've already covered that on this podcast before, but still, Hakim Ziyech on that right wing will be so exciting to see, cutting in on that left foot, creating forward players like Timo Werner, like Christian Pulisic, like Kai Havertz, like Mason Mount, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, all these players that can get forward and score a goal. Using that left foot to whip in crosses, just ping beautiful passes across the field. That is a very exciting thing, something that we have lacked, a good left foot. Now we have two attacking left-footed players. And obviously Timo Werner, a world-class striker who's only 24 years old, which is crazy. Blistering pace, great finisher, can even play make. He can drop back to play a second striker role if, potentially to play him and Tammy Abraham together. I mean, it's so exciting at this moment to be a Chelsea fan. Thiago Silva, I keep saying it's so exciting to be a Chelsea fan, but Thiago Silva, who does, as I've commented, turns 36, still world-class center back, and we need that experience in the back line. I can't wait for the season to start. I can't wait for this preseason to start, even though, we won't see Kai Havertz and all those players feature for a little bit because they do have to take their quarantines, the 2 week quarantines. But this preseason, we will see, Timo Werner and Hakim Ziyech in a Chelsea kit for the first time, which is very exciting to say. Yeah, you have anything to say? I think I'm done.
I'm not sure. To say. I said mostly of what I wanted to say. Just Chelsea's future is very exciting, man. I can't wait to see them compete for a Premiership or for a Premier League title.
Yeah. I think that we have a chance. We have a shot. I don't want to put too much pressure on the boys. We are a young team, but it is so exciting. And we will be challenging for years to come, especially led by a brilliant coach in Frank Lampard. And the rival fan bitterness and salt is back all over Twitter, all over social media. So that's good to see as well. And I think that we should maybe talk about Kepa a little bit. It's an interesting situation. Obviously, I think that we have made all the outfield signings that we'll make. Maybe we'll bring in another winger, possibly like Said Benrahma. I could see that happening still for a decent fee, 25 million, something like that, as a rotational winger, because as of now, it's pretty much just Callum Hudson-Odoi. And obviously Ruben Loftus-Cheek can apparently play on the left wing. I know we were trying to do that earlier this season. But also Mason Mount can play on the left wing. Kai Havertz can play on the right wing. So if we don't, I don't think it's the end of the world. We have other guys who can play those positions. But now we move on to Kepa. As time goes on, I'm becoming more and more unsure about our situation with him, because I thought right when the season ended with him not featuring in the last few games of the season because he just wasn't trusted, I thought, yeah, it's done. I don't think he'll even come back to training with us. I think that he will be out, at least going out on loan, or we will be selling him for a very cut price transfer, at least, compared to what we spent on him. And I think as time goes on, seeing him in training, hearing some reports come out, there's a chance he could be staying. It's weird. But I think if he does stay, we're bringing in somebody who can compete for that first team spot that's just a solid shot stopper. And one name that is pretty heavily linked at this moment is Edouard Mendy, the Rennes goalkeeper. Had an excellent season in Ligue 1 last season. 6'6", 28 years old, from Senegal. Great shot slapper. Exactly what Frank Lampard wants in a goalkeeper. I think he said that in a press conference. What he wants in a keeper. He just wants a keeper who can stop shots. And Edouard Mendy is the definition of that. I think it'd be an excellent acquisition if we did keep Kepa and we had these guys competing. And I think it could potentially bring the best out of Kepa. And we also could be getting an excellent goalkeeper in place of Kepa to be our number one. But yeah, what do you have to say about potentially? Obviously, we've heard a lot of names being linked lately, like Mike Maignan, but that hasn't been as heavily linked as Mendy. But yeah, what can you say about these new Chelsea goalkeeper links? I know we talked about some in the past, but if you want to see that, go and watch some previous podcasts. But these new links, what do you got to say about that?
Yeah, I agreed with your last point. Competition usually brings the best out of players. I know this from self-experience. Just being on a football team, when you see someone who is in contention of taking your spot, contention of taking your minutes away, it's not just me. It's in almost every sport. You don't want to give away, like at the end of the day, you guys are teammates, but you want to show the club or you want to show your team, whatever you do, why they value you, why you're there. You want to show your importance. I think Kepa has gotten a little laxed because with a second choice, no disrespect to Caballero. Obviously, Caballero is a solid goalkeeper, especially at his age, but we know that you can't compare Caballero to Kepa. Like Kepa, we know Kepa's more talented. Kepa, on his good days, is the better goalkeeper. And I feel like that's something that helped him succeed at Athletic Club, because at one point he was the third choice, and that competition has made him one of the most, if not the most, I will say the most expensive, because nobody's spending that kind of money this season on a goalkeeper. The most expensive goalkeeper in history. And I believe that competition will give us a little glimpse of what Chelsea has bought. Obviously, he knows a lot of fans are frustrated with him right now. A lot of Lampard. I don't want to say Lampard's frustrated. Lampard's more disappointed, because if Lampard was truly frustrated, I believe Kepa would have been out of the club by now. Obviously, Frank Lampard knows that he still has something left to give to the club. Petr Cech knows that he has something left to give to the club, which is why he's personally training him, as you've told me.
He wants to start doing that. It could help him out a lot. I don't know why he wasn't before, but he wants to start working with Kepa more, and he wants Kepa to stay at the club, reportedly.
And I think that's the right move, because honestly, yeah, Kepa had a really disappointing season, but his first season wasn't that bad. Like, he wasn't.
It's okay aside from.
It was tolerable, I will say. Like, he did show his signs of promise. He did show that he was a goalkeeper. He did dive for the ball, you know.
Yeah.
Like, he proved that, okay, maybe this guy in 2-3 years can be the person to replace Courtois between the sticks. But last season was just not his season. I believe that this season should be his test season to see, okay, was that last season just a fluke? Are you all right? Or is this how you're going to be performing? Because if this is how you're going to be performing, we're going to have to ship you out to get more game time for you to improve, or might even sell you. So, honestly, I think that's big ups to Petr Cech. That's the right move. Big ups to Frank Lampard for keeping his trust in him, and not just being quick to sell. But Kepa should know that this second chance is not a walk in the park. This is a test. So he should be taking every opportunity he gets seriously. Not that he hasn't been taking his opportunity seriously before, but this is a test. This is not a cakewalk. Obviously, they want to bring in that competition for him to succeed. And I believe that that's what's taken out of we're not appreciating more in today's football world. When we see stars get signed, when a team already has a star in that position, we tend to think, oh, no, he's being replaced. But quite honestly, I think sometimes managers just want a little bit of competition to get the best out of their players, because knowing that, oh, no, my spot isn't secured, brings the best out of us in training, in games, and just our attitude completely. Like, everything changes. When you're lax, you're all cool. You're like, I got my position in the bag. I don't have to worry about anything. You tend to dip a little in performances. I know that. Again, from self-experience, one of the old clubs I was at, I was like, yeah, I have no competition. It doesn't matter to me. I know I'll get my minutes. And then another kid came along. I got too cocky, and I lost some minutes. And I was like, okay, this needs to change. And that's why nowadays when I play football, when I see competition, I'm like, I have to be better than him in this practice or a game. I have to have more touches than him. I need to have more passes. I need to be more involved in the play than him. I need to show the coach why he has me starting. And I believe that that's what not I believe, we know that's what Frank Lampard wants from Kepa. We know that's what Frank Lampard wants from his center backs. We know that's what Frank Lampard wants from his midfielders, which is why he's bringing all this top-class talent. Um, and yeah, like I said before, you just want the best out of your players. So I believe that all of these moves that Chelsea has been making are great. Exciting future. I can't wait to see how Kepa improves because we don't like seeing people. Or me personally, I don't know about people out there, but me personally, no matter what team you play for, I don't like to see you play to your worst ability. I like to see the best from each player. I like them to show whatever club they're at what they're worth.
Yeah.
I want them to succeed. I don't want them to be bashed. I don't want them to be booed out of stadiums. I don't want them to be jeered out by fans out of the club. I just want every player that comes to a club to succeed and do what they came to do, which is perform and show the club why they bought them. So honestly, I'm wishing Kepa the best this season. I'm wishing him, pretty much just wishing him the best. I hope that he thrives from this competition that he's getting. And that's another thing I left out. As for who is going to be that competition, honestly, I believe there's no wrong moves with Eduard Mendy, Andre Onana, even Jan Oblak looks like a possibility. Nick Pope.
That's done now. That's finished.
Yeah.
Jan Oblak is done.
I had a feeling Jan Oblak was done, but
I never had a feeling that was real, or not that it was real, but that was ever going to happen. But
I just feel like Jan Oblak is one of those keepers who just has a lot of loyalty towards his club, and just it's a player who it's like Messi in a sense, just loyalty wise. But yeah, honestly, all the goalkeepers that they have shortlisted, I believe there's no wrong answers. I believe all of them would thrive and give him competition. And honestly, for whatever goalkeeper comes in, I hope let me compare it. I can't believe I just now thought about this as I was about to end. Liverpool did the same thing with Mignolet and Karius. We didn't necessarily bring Karius in to replace Mignolet. We brought Karius in to challenge Mignolet and bring out the best because he did have a dip in his season. He was our starting goalkeeper at the beginning in Karius' first season. And then we saw a little more of a dip, and we're like, okay, let's see what Karius has to provide. Karius came in. Karius proved to be better than Mignolet. So we're like, all right, Mignolet, you're now our number 2. Karius, you're our number 1. Maybe it's a different story for Kepa. Maybe it's Kepa is thriving. Maybe he should stay our number 1, and whoever comes in becomes the number 2.
Yeah.
But, yeah, obviously, as for Liverpool, this has ended in a situation where we have Alisson, who was also brought in to bring competition to Karius because he had the same thing that Mignolet had, but to a worse extent, to the point where he got loaned out. So then he was just the competition for Mignolet, in which everyone knew that it's no disrespect to Mignolet. It wasn't a competition. Mignolet did put in his good performances when he was given game time, but Alisson, it was Alisson. Alisson showed exactly why we bought him, for the amount of money we bought him for, 68, 67 million. And yeah, honestly, I see Chelsea having a similar path as Liverpool had, but I do believe Kepa has a higher percentage of succeeding rather than Karius and Mignolet. I do believe he has a higher percentage because he's still fairly young. He still has that time. He still has the opportunity to turn his season around and make good of it, make good of his Chelsea stay. So yeah, that's pretty much how I feel about the Kepa situation.
Yeah. And here's the thing, like we've seen Chelsea, obviously we've come out in the transfer market and we have gotten all the players that we want and we've covered the positions that we need. And I feel like if Kepa really, obviously we haven't seen any players leave the club aside from Willian and Pedro just yet. So nothing's guaranteed. But, we've seen, what am I saying? I'll just say this, Kepa was never really our first option at keeper to replace Courtois. We were going after Alisson, and then Liverpool bought Alisson. And then we completely went out, and it was a panic buy. We bought Kepa. We spent world's highest price for a keeper. I think Athletic Bilbao kind of used us a little bit for some funds because we are Chelsea and they are Athletic Bilbao, and they had the chance to sell to a big club, and we needed that position. And the guy that we decided to go after was Kepa, and it resulted in the world's most expensive goalkeeper. And Kepa, I've said on this podcast before, I do believe in him. I think that he's a solid keeper. I think that he's had his bad performances. He's lacked confidence. It's a hard situation. I do think that it could potentially be the best if we did bring in an Eduard Mendy, who has been heavily linked recently. 28 years old, experienced keeper, great shot stopper. It's tall as well. To compete with him, I think it could be the perfect move. And it could bring out the best in Kepa. And if it doesn't, then we get a very solid shot stopper, I pray, in Eduard Mendy. Or potentially, if we truly aren't done and if we do have plans for Kepa to leave the club in some way, I do also somewhat like the plan of we bring in an Andre Onana or we bring in Nick Pope, very solid keepers. We bring in, either one of those guys. We send Kepa out on loan, and then maybe we sign a Ben Foster, or we keep Willy Caballero as our second choice keeper. Heck, maybe we even just sign Ben Foster. Ben Foster competes with Kepa. And Ben Foster obviously is a strange signing. He's 37, 38 years old, but he was really good for Watford, I have to say. He did the best he could in front of that, in the horrible, burning pile of trash that was Watford. And I remember a brilliant performance he had against Chelsea earlier this year. If you saw that, you would not think he was as old as he is. I don't think that's the solution to the Chelsea's goalkeeping situation, but I don't know what I truly do think about the Kepa situation. I think it would be good to keep him around, possibly, as we do bring in more solid competition instead of 38, 39-year-old Willy Caballero, who's, as I don't want to bash him, he's leader at the club. Everybody loves Willy. He's a decent keeper. He's had some okay performances for us this season, but he's 39. So it's just Kepa. And the thing is, when Kepa, earlier in the season, when Willy Caballero came into the first team, when he played a couple of games in the season, like against Leicester, he became our number one for a little bit. And then when Kepa was reintroduced to the starting lineup against Liverpool, he was second man of the match behind Billy Gilmore. He had an excellent performance. It was a clean sheet. We saw the best out of Kepa. He had that triple save, made some great saves that game. We saw a great performance out of Kepa. And from that moment, it's like, finally, we're getting our guy. And then we go up against Everton the game after that. We win 4-0, another clean sheet. He had a pretty solid game. He did his job in goal. We go into break, and he's been the worst he's been the entire season when we've come back. We saw against Liverpool, I don't even know how to describe it. One of the worst performances I've ever seen from a keeper, I'd say. It just wasn't good at all. We saw the ball obviously being crossed into the box, and he just stood there watching the ball as Virgil van Dijk misses a wide open goal somehow. We are very thankful that didn't go in. Still lost the game, so it doesn't matter. And then after that happens, we saw however many Chelsea players scream his name. We saw him scream Kepa because Kepa just watched the ball. And then we've also talked about a stat where 30% of the shots he's faced this season, he hasn't even attempted to dive. I believe that was the stat. Yeah. I think Kepa's a talented keeper. He's brought in because he was really good with his feet, but he's been okay with his feet. He's not an Alisson or an Ederson when it comes to being a goalkeeper with, how good they are with their feet. And he's not any better than any keeper in the Premier League when it comes to saving a ball. So he needs to improve a lot. And Kepa needs to, take some mentoring lessons from Petr Cech. He's not the world's tallest goalkeeper. He's 6'1", so he's going to have some issues. We saw that when he faced that shot against Zaha when ball went straight over his head, couldn't even get to the ball, scored. I don't think that that's necessarily a height thing. I think that's just him not having the confidence, the willingness to just go after the ball, which is horrible. But I think it would do him a world of good. It would do him so much if Petr Cech really worked with him. Obviously, he's our technical advisor. I don't know his exact role, but pretty much he's our transfer guy. He meets with players. He met with Timo Werner. He knows so many different languages. He can communicate with different players. He's technical administrator, something like that. You know, he's another just the revelation at the club. If we brought along John Terry as an assistant coach as well, Ashley Cole, Frank Lampard, obviously, John Terry, Petr Cech. I mean, it's yeah. But yeah, this is about Kepa, and I believe in him. If we are to keep him, if he's to stay around, and we do bring in some competition, that is the one position I'm worried about. I think every other position we have settled. We're entirely good. I think we're set for this next season. Aside from that, I want to see what we do there. Maybe we do bring in another winger, but I think that's all I gotta say. Is that it?
That's it.
All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in to this week's edition of the Out of Time Football Podcast. We've been trying to be more consistent with our uploads, and I think that we're doing a pretty good job. So, yeah, if you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, please. And if you enjoyed, maybe go watch the previous podcast if you got some time on your hands. Yeah, I think that's all that we got to say. Stay tuned. We're going to keep releasing. If you have any criticism, drop it down in the comments. You know, we're trying to get better at this. So, yeah. All right. So with that said, see you next week. Yeah.